drag this way as well. Don't want to throw the water everywhere. Thank you. Good morning, church. Bit warm, isn't it? So, if I was to come to your house and I was to look around, I wonder what it would tell me about you. If I was to root through your possessions, what would I discover? Would I find cupboards overflowing with craft equipment and DIY stuff? No, they say, definitely not. Would I find wardrobes with lots of clothes, maybe a few too many pairs of shoes? There's a few guilty faces. I'm trying not to look in any one direction. It's amazing how things kind of build up, isn't it? Some of us even deliberately collect things. Anybody here collect anything? Music, ornaments, elephants? Nothing? I can't believe that none of you collect anything. Okay. There's a program on the television, BBC One, called Sort Your Life Out. Has anybody seen this? So Stacey Solomon goes and she looks around a house, and basically the aim is they take everything out of a house, put it in a big warehouse, encourage you to sort through it, throw out a load of stuff so that they can then put it back into your house, all neatly organised so it will fit and you'll know where everything is. But often people are quite shocked when they realise quite how much stuff they've got in their warehouse. It's easy for things to build up, isn't it? But I suspect that there are lots of us here who have more things than we realise, and our possessions easily start to clutter up our lives. And so this morning we're going to have a look at what it might mean to simplify not just our possessions, but our lives generally, to find out what it was that Jesus was encouraging us to do. And so I've brought some of my stuff with me to help us to explore this. So I'm lucky enough to have lots of clothes, and when I open up my wardrobe, I can make a choice about what things I want to wear. I can make a decision, okay? But quite often my decision is influenced by the place that I'm going, okay? So in my past job, if I was having to go to court, then I would always wear a suit, okay? I would never have worn jeans. If I'd have turned up to court in jeans, they would have thought I wasn't intelligent and I wouldn't have anything useful to say to them, and they would ignore me. Okay, so I had to wear my dark suit, okay? There was no written rule that that's what you had to do, but you had to do it, okay? On the other hand, if I was going to a social event, I would not wear a dark suit because people would assume that I'm not very approachable. So it might put them off. You know, there's some clothes I wouldn't wear because I feel like they're not really me. They don't really fit my identity. And so if we're honest, quite often our clothes start to talk about who we are as a person. And they help other people to make assumptions about who we are as a person. Now, it's not just our clothes that do that, is it? When we think about our houses, our cars, our choice of dog, our watches, our handbags, all of these things speak a little bit about our identity. And quite often we choose them because we want to say something about our identity. And advertisers play on this, and they start to tell you that if you haven't got their product, then actually your life is meaningless. And without it, you're just not worth knowing, to be honest. So you have to buy their thing. And so our possessions start to define us. And as they do that, they shape who we are, and they actually change the way that we think about ourselves and the way that we behave. And I know that when I wear my suit, I behave differently from when I'm wearing my jeans, okay? It's shaping me, it's changing the way I am. And our possessions do that. And they actually become gods in our lives. And there's a rule about that, isn't there? One of the 10 Commandments is, do not have any other God. And we often think about that as being a rule because God wants all the attention, but I wonder whether actually it's a rule that actually is more about us and our needs and the fact that actually it benefits us if we don't have any other gods. Now, does anybody here go to Specsavers? Yeah, have you got that one? Yeah. I've kept hold of this one, yeah. Not the matching glasses anymore. Anybody got their second pair free? Yeah, it's not really that free, is it? But anyway, I've got a second pair. You know what? When they offered me my second pair of glasses, I thought, thank goodness, because without my glasses, I can't see, okay? I've got varifocals. I wouldn't be able to see distance. I wouldn't be able to see close. I wouldn't be able to drive. I wouldn't be able to read or write. So I thought it would reduce my stress if I had 2 pairs of glasses. Actually, what it did was increase my stress. Because now every morning I've got to make a decision, like which pair do I wear? Which one goes best with my outfit? And it actually became a big stress. And we often think about choice as being a good thing, but actually choice can actually make life more complicated for us. Now, apparently, we fall into 2 categories when it comes to choices. If we're faced with a lot of choice, there are those of us who are maximizers. And so when we have to make a choice about what we're going to buy, we need to consider every single option and decide which one is best. Yeah, I know it's me as well, so don't worry, okay? I had to choose a new iron recently, and there's the length of the cord and the size of the water tank and how long it steams for and what the surface is made of. So many decisions. And what if I get it wrong and I pick the wrong one, okay? Then there are those of us who are, now I've got to get the word right, satisficers. Now, it's a combination of the word satisfy and suffice. And actually, we look at choices and we just go, that'll do, I'll take that one. I won't look into all the stuff, I just pick it. And yeah, now there's going to be arguments about which one you are. Yeah, we all know. And if we're true and if we're honest, quite often the satisficers are much happier with their purchase. They get it, they're content, they're satisfied. And the maximizers think, you know what, I'm not sure I made the right choice. And they're not happy with the thing that they've spent hours and hours pondering about whether or not this was the right thing to get. And they are worried about it, and it eats away, and it eats away. And then when the upgrade comes out, they think, maybe I should get the upgrade. It might have been better. And maybe a different model comes out, and you think, actually, maybe I should get that model. It could be better. And so we're forever buying the next thing, hoping that it's going to solve our life's problems. We're never satisfied. And of course, that means that possessions are starting to rule us again, aren't they? They're causing us to act and behave and think differently. And there's something there as well about how God says that we shouldn't covet other things, doesn't he? Another one of those 10 commandments that talks about the fact that we shouldn't covet. Because otherwise we're never happy with what we've got. We're never satisfied. We're never content. Now, Grant hates me for this. I have a paper diary and a paper calendar. Apparently you can get them on the computer too. Grant keeps pointing that out. I'm getting better. But our lives are really busy, aren't they? It's not just our cupboards and our wardrobes that are full. It is our possession, it is our time that is full as well. And quite a lot of us work long hours. Maybe we commute long times. We try and squeeze in hobbies and exercise. Well, sometimes we try and squeeze in exercise and seeing friends. And then, of course, there's the children, and they want to go to different clubs, and then we feel like a failure as a parent if they haven't got a different club every day of the week. And so we spend our lives driving around, picking them up and dropping them off and taking them to places. And so they take up time. And, of course, our possessions take up time as well, because if you've got possessions, you want to use them, which is understandable. So that takes up time. And then quite often those possessions need maintaining, and so that takes up time. So it's not just the shopping and the choosing, it's the using and it's the maintaining which takes up time. And before we know it, just as Phil said the other day, we don't have time for Sabbath anymore, do we? There's no time to stop and relax, to delight in what we have. It actually becomes really difficult for us just to be still and to spend time in God's presence. And God said, observe the Sabbath. And he didn't say it because he's a killjoy. He said it not because he wanted the church attendance figures to drop. He said it because actually he likes spending time in our presence. And he knows that we become slaves to our lives, slaves to our possessions, slaves to our busy diaries. And that we need to be released from that slavery at least one day a week to get a break from it all. Now, many of us also have a bit of technology, don't we? So whether it's laptops or phones or iPads, various different gadgets. funky phones and watches. My one of my sons has just got a new watch, which is alerting him to when he's not sleeping properly. I don't know why that helps you, because you knew that surely. And how many steps you've taken that day, and all other things, not just the time. And it's amazing what we can do with technology, isn't it? We can contact our loved ones. We can find out what Trump's just said. We can find out what the latest tennis score is. We can find out all this stuff at the touch of a button. We can order our dinner, our weekly shop, all with technology. And it is supposed to make our life easier, and in lots of ways, it does. But there's an irony, which I think is summed up well in the title of a book by Greg Easterbrook. And he's written this book. It's called The Progress Paradox: How Life Gets Better While People Feel Worse. And what we found is that our mental health has actually deteriorated in a proportional speed to the increase of our technology. We think it will make us feel better, but quite often it makes us feel worse. And so our stuff promises us lots of things, doesn't it? And we gather more and more things, and we get busier and busier, but it just never quite delivers. And in fact, the consequences are that we're always distracted, we're always trying to multitask, we never fully enjoy anything or concentrate on the thing that we're on. We struggle to rest and relax. Anybody go on holiday and sit by the pool and fidget? I think, I don't know what to do with my time, give me something to do, I can't just sit here. We struggle, and our mental health goes down because of it. And we worry because we worry about what we worship. You know, how can I keep it safe? How can I fix it? How can I keep it clean? How can I keep it roadworthy? How can I stop other people from spoiling it or stealing it or taking it away? And so we start to hold tighter and tighter to our things. And as we hold tighter to that, we stop trusting on God. We don't hold on as tightly to God, and our trust in him dwindles. So what can we do about all of this? Well, Jesus has a plan. Matthew, do you want to come and read it? Did you know about this? You're looking shocked? If you did, don't do that to me. I've got it here, so don't worry. It's here, and I've buried the microphone under here somewhere. Should have thought that through. There we go. There you go.
Good morning, church. The reading is taken from Matthew 6:19-24. Treasures in heaven. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
Thank you. So translators say that do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth could more accurately be translated as stop storing up treasures for yourself on earth. Reorientate yourself back to God. Stop chasing after the thing that glitters and focus on God instead. And Jesus recognized that that was happening to the people that he was speaking to 2,000 years ago when they didn't have all of this. So how much more is it relevant to us today? But he did want to show them that they could change this. They could stop. And Jesus recognized that our possessions really do impact our relationship with God. And in fact, a lot of people say that about 25% of Jesus' teaching was about possessions and things that we own. And Jesus spent a lot of that time talking about these things because he knew about the impact that it has on our relationship with him. He's explaining the uncomfortable truth that where your resources are is where your heart is. So if you have money, then your heart is there. If you have a Paul Weller music collection, your heart is there. If you have a nice car, then your heart is there. And your heart can't be in two places at once. And so instead, Jesus told them to build up treasures in heaven. Now, what does that mean? How do I put my stuff into the clouds or what does that mean? Well, the idea of heavenly treasure was a concept that was really familiar to Jesus' Jewish listeners. And it referred to doing good works that would kind of shape you, that would develop godly character, that would help you to have generosity of spirit, and in doing that, it would also help others who were in need. That's what he meant by treasures in heaven, that we need to be building up things that are going to last by doing good stuff that build up our godly character and help others. And he also talked about the fact that we need healthy eyes. This is nothing to do with Specsavers, okay? This is just what you look at shapes how you feel on the inside. If you look at good stuff and spend time focusing on that good stuff, then actually it will build up your soul. If you look at all these other distractions, then actually it will make your soul deteriorate. It allows darkness to come in and overwhelm you. So he's encouraging us to focus on godly things so that our relationship with him doesn't become clouded. And he's really blunt here. He says you can't build up treasures on earth and build up treasures in heaven at the same time. You can't give to those in need at the same time as putting money into your savings account. You can't live in the freedom that Jesus offers and overconsume, because then that's not freedom. You can do one or the other. And often, the more we have, the worse we become at sharing and being generous. And have you noticed that quite often it's those that have the least who are the most generous? I've got friends who are top earners, and I go out for a meal with them, and we split the bill 50-50, okay? And I've got friends who are on the dole, and they don't have anything, and they pay for me. And it gives them real joy to do that. They want to do it because they're so generous with the little that they have. And I was really challenged about this recently because I always thought that I was quite a generous person, okay? And then we had someone come into the church a while back who was fleeing domestic violence, and she had only the clothes that she was wearing, and we helped her find new accommodation. And during the process of this, she had to come back to my place, and I rooted through my cupboards to get together some things that would keep her going for a few nights. And I was rooting through my sock drawer. It was winter. She needed socks. And there were lots of socks in my drawer that I should have thrown away that were not suitable to give to her. But there were also some nice socks. And I went to give them to her, and then I thought, you know what, I quite like those ones. I'm not sure I want to give them to her. And I can afford to buy new socks, okay? But I suddenly realised, actually, I was struggling to give away things that God has blessed me with. Something really simple. And I could have just given it away. And I did root through my wardrobe, and I did give her stuff. But it was a struggle. And I was shocked by myself because I thought I was generous. And I suddenly realised that actually, I'm not. I'm holding my possessions far too tightly. Our possessions can change us. And often, we don't even notice. So what can we do about all of this? Well, we've been looking at the ruthless elimination of hurry, and he talks very much in this. John Mark Comer wrote the book, and he talks about simplifying. So what does it mean to simplify our lives? Does it mean we've got to get rid of absolutely everything? Well, Joshua Becker comes up with a definition. He says it's the intentional promotion of the things we most value and the removal of everything that distracts us from them. So promote the stuff that's good and get everything else out of the way. Mark Scandit puts it this way. He says it's choosing to leverage time, money, talents and possessions towards what matters most. You know, there's no getting away from the fact that actually if we simplify, it is going to involve sacrifice. if we have to give up some things that we might like in order to build up the things that we love. And so we need to clear away our possessions. So we need to literally get a black sack in our lives and decide what things we can get rid of. You know, maybe we've got to hand over our time to God and say, actually, it's yours. I'm going to clear out spaces in my diary of things that I don't need to do. Some of these choices that I've got are ridiculous. They're taking up my time. Help me instead to give them back to you. All this technology, I'm spending far too much time scrolling and wasting time that's not good for me. It's not healthy eyes. And I need to give some of that time back to God. Maybe there are things that are shaping my identity that I need to recognize and say, actually, I need to get my identity from God, not from my possessions and not from my clothes. And so we need to put it all away in our black sack and take it away. And when we do that and we get rid of it, quite often we discover that there's something buried underneath it all. Maybe it's a little bit of time that you get to win back with God. Time to read your Bible, go for a walk in the woods and recognize the creation of God. Maybe it's that little bit of space that you need just to connect with him by doing your art or your poetry, whatever it is that works for you, the silence, the solitude, so that you can connect with God. Because when we do that underneath it all, we discover that God was there the whole time, but he was just buried under everything else that we had going on in our lives. So we need to clear some stuff out so that we can find him again. So how can we do this? There's a few tips I've got just to close. The first is 3 questions that we can ask ourselves when we're considering an activity or buying something or giving away something that might help us to make a good decision. The first one is, what is its true cost? This isn't just about how much money it might cost to buy it in the first place, but how much money might it cost to maintain it and to run it and to keep it going? And how much time will it cost to use it and also to maintain it? And will this take me away from other priorities in my life, which actually is not what God wants for us? Second question, does it add value or joy to my life? And the answer is, if it says no, then don't waste your time on it. Don't waste your money on it or your energy on it. Or if you've already got it, then throw it away, give it to somebody else, give it to charity. Stop using it because it's not adding that value to your life. And the final question to consider is, what harm is it doing? It may sound like a strange question, but maybe that product, that thing that takes up your time could be hurting your mental health. Maybe its production has helped somebody else. Maybe its production damages the environment, or it causes other people to have to work in slavery for you to be able to use that product. Maybe they don't get paid fairly, or their work conditions aren't good because you're getting that product. So what harm is that doing? Think about that before we buy anything. And then some top tips for you. Firstly, avoid impulse buying. It's so easy, isn't it? We see something and we get it because we think we need it there and then. But actually, if you're thinking of buying something, sit on it for a week. See if you still need it next week. Sometimes we don't need it anymore. So just have a little think about it. Secondly, buy fewer, better quality things. You know, quite often they'll last longer. They won't need replacing as often, so that'll be better for the environment. Sometimes, but not always, you need to check it out. It can mean that its production is better for other people, and so it might come with some fair trade sort of assurances, but check that out. If you can afford to buy something fair trade, it's always going to be much better. Thirdly, budget. Quite often, all these things lead us to believe that our life isn't going to be worth living unless we get them, and so we spend our money, or we see a bargain and we think, my goodness, that's such a good price, I've got to have it. Actually, we don't really need it, or it's pushing us outside of the amount of money that we can actually afford. So don't just buy whatever you want, budget for it. And if you'd like help with budgeting, we run a budgeting course here at the church regularly, and David is around somewhere, I don't know where he is, but I can introduce you to David, and he runs a budgeting course. people are pointing in different directions. He is over there. David is over there. So if you want help with budgeting, he can help you with that. And I know that the CAP Money course also has an app that can help you as well. Fourthly, do enjoy what you've got, okay? Don't feel bad that you have stuff. It is good. God blesses us with things. Enjoy them. But just remember that God gave them to you. They are his. He's allowing you to have them. So thank God for them. Appreciate them and appreciate God. Invest in God. What time or money or talents or possessions can you give to God? Ask God to show you how he wants you to use what you have. And finally, live generously. Sharing what you have is such a blessing to other people. Often it's not the amount or the thing itself, it's the thought behind it that really blesses someone. And everything that you have, consider it as a loan from God. He's given it to you to look after, and if he wants you to pass it on, then follow that instruction and pass it on to somebody else. So simplifying is a challenge, isn't it? Sometimes we don't realise quite how much we have or how much time we waste or the amount of time we give to certain things, and we don't realise where our heart is and the fact that actually our treasure is actually being built up here on earth rather than in heaven. But God is always faithful. He is waiting for us to find him at the bottom of the pile, okay? He is always there. And so he calls us to seek him and to dig through that pile, to get that dustbin bag in our life and fill it up with the things that are distracting from him so that we can focus on him better. So we're going to sing our final song. And as we sing this song, recognizing how faithful God is, you might want to come to these different points around the room. There's one at the back. And just write down something that God is asking you to give up or give away or reevaluate in your life. And you might want to just put it in the offering bag that is there. Please don't put money in there because I'm not going to read all these things, okay? Just write down the item on that piece of paper that you feel God is challenging you about. Sometimes an action of going actually makes us keep our promises better, helps us to respond to God. And if you want prayer for anything during this song or after the service, do come to the front, speak with us and we will pray with you. But allow God to speak to you as you consider how he's provided for you. Allow God to speak to you and to touch you and to evaluate what things you have in your life, what needs to change before him.